Since perhaps the beginning of time itself, people have always been addicted to pointing the fingers at other people for all the wrong things that happen in their lives. We blame our parents for not raising us correctly. We blame our income for the reason we're not successful or happy. And we blame our past relationships from stealing away our youth. But as fun as it is to blame other people for our own mistakes, there comes a point when we have to stop blaming everybody else for how we feel or the misfortunes in our lives. We can't go through life obsessing on the what ifs when we should be focusing on how we could change it instead. It would be like complaining to yourself about the fact that you're drowning in the middle of the ocean when there's someone offering you help on a nearby boat. And although you have a chance to save your life, if you continue concentrating on the wrong things, you won't see that very thing that could save you. And such as that horrible analogy, there might be a boat waiting for you nearby. All it takes is opening your ears and ignoring those negative thoughts. Now the first bad habit is don't label yourself incorrectly. No one's perfect, and yet people still have a hard time accepting it. Once someone does something wrong, they tend to consider themselves worthless or refuse to admit they're wrong. It's like when your friend did something that was disrespectful but was too stuck up to admit they were wrong. But there's a dangerous road that's crossed when you blame your own characteristics rather than the foolish acts you committed. And by constantly blaming yourself, your self-esteem lowers and you develop a tendency to avoid more responsibilities. It's why supervisors who previously messed up on an assignment become too scared to ever try anything new again. It's why people who fail a test see no point of ever taking it again. I hate it whenever I answer a question wrong in front of the entire classroom. And even if I knew the next question the teacher asked the class, I still remember that embarrassing moment that prevented me from answering another question. But as much as we'd like to hit ourselves for our own stupid mistakes, people can't label themselves by those traits. Just as people who fail aren't considered failures forever, those who make mistakes aren't labeled worthless either. Every action you commit remains in the past, and the only way you can take control of your future is by maintaining your present situation. Sure, you might face a few consequences or setbacks if you made a few silly mistakes, but those things wash over in time. If I were to slap my friend in the face, she'll definitely get angry and attack me. But once her anger leaves and she sees how I'm trying to correct the situation, it creates a brighter future than if I were to pretend I had the right to slap her in the first place. Avoid labeling yourself as a loser, failure, or anything else that's negative, because that doesn't determine your future. Just because you failed some test doesn't mean you'll fail forever. Sure, you might have to study a little more before you retake it, but that test doesn't define you as a human. Your mom didn't give birth to you just so you could pass that one test your calculus teacher decided to hand out one afternoon. Never label yourself from your mistakes. It's like calling a man a criminal because of one mistake he made in the past and refusing to believe he could ever change. Sure, there's a variety of people who continue living a life of crime, but that doesn't mean we should label everyone who has a criminal record as an automatic crook. Because once we label someone as a villain, loser, or failure, we help convince them that that's who they actually are. You may not have the best ideas at work or even the best grades at school, but those traits don't mark you as a human. They only act as your background and nothing more. What determines your overall character is how you control the present and act as a person you want to be today. The second bad habit is don't judge other people. It's easy to judge and make false assumptions about someone, and at times it can even be fun. After all, who has the time to understand someone's personality when it's much easier to rely on the typical stereotype we give them? If we see someone who's angry and rude, we just automatically assume they were jerks since the moment they were born. They probably even slapped the doctor across the face and laughed at crying children. But as easy as it is to label someone, avoid that habit. When you automatically assume someone's bad just because of their history, how they look, or their present behavior, you automatically become more hostile towards them. You close the door to understand that person as a human, and you label them as some one-dimensional character from a movie you hated. Sure, there could be that one jerk who you don't like, but your beliefs about that jerk doesn't make any changes. And by imposing your own beliefs on how that jerk should behave will only increase your own blood pressures and anxieties. You may want that jerk to act the way you desire, but it's a battle you can never win. You have a better chance at planning how you're going to spend your lottery winnings after your third date with Jessica Alba. And although it's tempting to fight that jerk, torture him, and then tie him up somewhere whenever he acts negative, is not the proper way to handle it. Instead, try to understand why he's feeling that way and see life from his own perspective. You might not feel his feelings or know his backstory, but the best way to reduce the anger in such people is just to be a relaxing source near them. Unlike the times you live with your parents, part of living in the real world is understanding that there's people besides you who have personal problems too. Sure, we like to imagine that the people we work with, go to class with, or even Facebook with all have lives without any worries. But that's only because we don't hear about them. Unlike a television show, we don't know every aspect of Jill's day once she leaves work. Someone at your job could be suffering from depression and barely holding on to their life. Someone you eat lunch with can be dealing with loneliness. There's no logic in imposing our own beliefs on how other people should behave because the free will exists. The best way you can ever hope is to show someone the proper way to act is by being the example yourself. If you don't like the way someone behaves, don't let it dictate your own emotions. Acknowledge the fact that they have their own personal issues and forgive them for any rude thing they say. However, you still need to set the limits and keep away from that jerk if and whenever they try to abuse you. And the last bad habit is, don't assume you can't correct the past. Whenever you feel depressed, at some level you're assuming there's a fault in you that can't be fixed. Whether it's your own poor social skills, your intelligence, or your life, we sometimes assume there's no way to fix it. Sure, there might have been a point in your life where you tried to fix whatever was bothering you, but it didn't go successfully. And from that moment on, you just assume you are bound to forever suffer from that fate. But these false beliefs we create can be changed. If you tell yourself, I messed up speaking to that cute person, therefore I'm bound to forever be alone, you're giving yourself an automatic loss. Instead, always see the situation from a logical perspective by observing your actions. Tell yourself, I may have messed up, but humans often make mistakes. The next time I speak to someone, I'll know what to do. You're not expected to fix all your problems immediately. Yes, I love to have the ability to suddenly approach any woman I like, but that's a social skill that needs to be worked on daily before I get there. It's like giving a violin to a child and telling her to master it in only one day. But since this is the real world, she's not going to be a great musician that fast. She's going to freak out and mark herself as a failure because she can't master an impossible task. If you want to overcome any boundaries, it takes correcting your past errors through work and practice. Even when you don't want to do it, force yourself to work out, speak to other people, or whatever else you'd like to work on. Hey guys, if you'd like to see more videos in the future, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe.